probably the house too, but baby, it's stuck to me like glue.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 14. Social media! Whoa! Oh my gosh, you guys have been so excited to post this episode about social media. You have no idea. Well, I wanted it to come naturally and organically, and now I have a really wonderful reason to talk about social media. We'll be talking about a couple different things actually that have to do with more like online presence, social media, the internet in general. I know it's crazy saying this in 2026 and not being like pro technology or whatever, but you know, here we go. It's like, yes, I understand this is like the life we live in. It doesn't mean you have to like it. Anyways, so I'm going to start off by telling you a very silly story. We'll see what happens. I could get into the hacking of social media, being catfished on social media, impersonators, influencers, greed, people talking about things, excuse me, they know absolutely nothing about. I mean, there's just a laundry list of things not to like about social media and the harm that it does. Oh, one little taste. The fact that you can get in trouble for hate speech or for, if you post something that's violent, but yet if it's under what they want out, then you can get away with posting it. But if you're like, hey, someone's breaking into my house right now, I want to go live because this is my proof before they stole my phone. Oh, here's a document of them breaking my windows and coming in, and social media is like, yeah, no, you don't have freedom of speech to post that. I'm going to make sure this does not go through. Yeah, that sucks. But you don't mind documenting the protesting and the immigration and the wars. It's like, agendas, whatever. Not even going to get into that because I'm going to keep it more relatable. Let's not even go into like the dark abyss of social media because that's like a whole other can of worms. But first, let me tell you a nice, beautiful little story that happened to me last night. I got asked out on a date. What? Oh my God, I can't believe it. She finally got asked out on a date. Bar, 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 bar. I know, shocking, right? It's been forever. I think the funny thing to me about getting asked out on a date is it felt normal. It felt like a long time coming. It felt like it shouldn't have been such a big deal. And I was like, oh my God, finally, a middle-aged silver fox who's like not acting like a child. The last two guys I tangoed with was not dated. They don't have the capacity to do that. Tangoed. Was 28 and 39, both too young for me. But, age is not always like a factor. You can be mature at a young age and you can be immature at an older age. It really doesn't matter. But the point is like, I typically like older men. And then, I kept thinking like, this guy makes me feel like a lady. Like, I love it. There's so much like chivalry and he's being a gentleman and he walked me to my car. And anyways, let me just like tell you the whole story because you guys are probably like, oh my God, what did he do? And you can tell me if it's a big deal or not. I know how I feel about it, but you can make your opinions. So I was working yesterday. God, I started at like 7:30 in the morning. And I think I got home at like 2 in the afternoon and there was like no freaking work. And I was so mad because I like needed work and I didn't have enough shifts. And even though I had worked like 7-8 hours, hold on, I'm going to close my door. Cool. Okay, so even though I worked like 7-8 hours, like in my job, it doesn't matter how many hours you work. You got to make your goal, and like however long that takes you. Sometimes you can't make your goal and it is what it is. But I got home around like 2-ish and got, a couple things done. And I was like, wow, this sucks. Like, there's no work. 3 rolls around, 4 rolls around, 5 rolls around. And I'm like, what the fuck, you guys? Like, I guess I'm not working the rest of the day. Like, this sucks. But I kind of was like, I left my stuff in my car because I was like, I kind of feel like I want to go out, but like, whatever. So I get a call at 5:30. And they're like, hey, you want to go to Carlsbad? I was like, go to Carlsbad in rush hour traffic? What are you nuts? I said, 3 hours there, 3 hours back. I said, how much are they paying? I said, I'm sorry, you want me to do a 6-hour trip for $120 minus like $30 in gas? Like, are you guys on drugs? And I thought about it and I was like, well, you made no money today. You're working Coachella this weekend. You need to make up some hours. You got $200, $300 tickets, like back to back for parking. And, life is expensive. Like, no, you don't get a break. Keep grinding. So I was like, fine. And I've been wanting to do some like San Diego trips anyways. I want like those longer trips. I think the drive is nice. There's like a lot of reasons why I want to take trips to San Diego. Anyways, we'll get into that. So I'm like, okay, like I'll do it. And I had to go in the opposite direction, 20 miles. I had to go to Inglewood, pick up the packages, and then 6 o'clock. I had to be there by 8. And the drive really wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It took almost 2 hours on the dot to go about 100 miles. And what's funny is I was like laughing with my colleague and friend. I was like, you guys, you could be in West LA trying to get to Orange County and it would take you 2 hours just to do that. In fact, when I did West LA to Irvine, which is, I don't know what, 45-ish miles-ish, took me 2.5 hours during rush hour. But you could go twice the distance and it took you less time. Anyways, we're not going to get into LA traffic, but like it's a real thing when people don't want to have relationships with someone 15 to 30 miles away because it's not about the miles. It's about how long it will take you to get there. Unless you want to like hang out with your boyfriend or girlfriend at like midnight, you could do that. It's a real problem in Southern California. Anyways, it is sad though, like that we have to do that with people. Like there was this guy that kind of flirts with me at Cedars, which is in West LA, and we were talking about a movie and I was like, where do you live? He's like, Chinatown. I was like, yep, too far from Long Beach. Bye. Have a good day. It's sad you got to do that. Also, I think if you really like the person, distance doesn't matter. But if you're just trying to get to know somebody, that's like it's a real struggle when you like don't know the person. You know what I mean? If you have like a foundation, I think that's different. I am totally going on a tangent right now. So I do this ride and thank God my friend / dispatcher is amazing. I call him a miracle worker and he's like, oh, I got some other ones for you to do like before and after. I'm like, thank God. Thank God. So that helped. Of course, that means like it's like 9-10 o'clock at night before I got home at like 10 on the dot. And that was with like a job that ended up not happening. So I was like, dang it. I lost money, but I saved time. Anyways, digressing. Yes. Okay. That is the correct term. So I'm like distracted because my kitty is like, I want attention and I'm going to bite myself if you don't give me attention. Do you guys have pets like that? Okay. Side note, Sebastian, no, you're proving my point. So I thought about it, like teenagers who like cut themselves or whatever, or, cause themselves like harm. I thought about it the other day and I was like, how fucked up is that? Like you're hurting yourself because you're not getting your way. And if you look at it like that, man, that really fucking sucks. But that's like a maturity thing and it's like a health thing, and we're not even going to get into that. I just thought that was an interesting concept. I was like, my cat is hurting himself because he's not getting his way. That's like fucked up. Okay. Side note. Why can't I tell you this story? It's because I hate social media. Okay, so I go to this place. It's this giant freaking warehouse facility that's like brand new. It's only been up for 2 years. It's like this automated facility for this particular famous shipping company. And I call this guy, and the number wasn't working. I had to get a different number. I called him again. And he said, yeah, you got to look. And I'm talking giant warehouse. Like, you got to get your car and go, like, I don't know. The whole thing is, if you go around the whole perimeter, it's probably like, I mean, a mile would be dramatic, but it's a long drive. So I call this guy, and he's like, yeah, you got to look for the employee entrance. He's like, it's going to be the only open door. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what I thought it was. Like, cool. I'll be right there. So I go to the only open door that I see. I ask this guy, and he's like, oh, yeah, I don't know who that is, but I can help you. Like, very cool. Yeah, sometimes they just come in here and they do it. Okay, cool. Pass me to this other guy. This other guy's like, how the fuck did you get in here? And I was like, the open door? And he's like, you never should have gotten in here like this. I was like, yeah, funny thing about me, I'm very skilled at getting into places. I have no problem. I can get into jails with no security. I can like get into like high security checkpoints with, smooth sailing. It's getting out. That's the problem for me. I make that joke with everywhere I go because it's true. For some reason, I can get into places just getting out. Someone else would have to help me get out. So I get to the second guy, and the second guy takes me to this third and final guy. And he too is like, how did you get in here? I said, it's the only open door that I saw. He's like, no one should be getting in through that point. I was like, I mean, the door was wide open. I just walked in. Like, that's on you guys. Anyway, so there's all these guys out, and this guy, other guy, like, hands out this little, like, signature. He's like, sign this for the package, please. And it was very official. And I was like, oh, man. Okay, so I signed my life away for, that I received this package. And then this guy, mind you, this is after 13, 14-hour day. I have 2 giant pimples on my face currently. My hair was pulled up because I felt greasy. I love describing my work uniform. I have to wear this gray polo shirt. And like, it's the collar, man. If the shirt didn't have to have a collar, it wouldn't make you feel so gross. But like, me and collars, they're not friends. Especially when you're working like in the heat and exposed elements, like, collars are awful. Anyways, and these like, chody black pants, right? My point is to say, I may be beautiful on the inside, but when guys say I'm hot and attractive, and I'm like, what are you seeing that I am not seeing? Like, yes, I'm fine and dandy and I love what I look like, but like, man, wait until you guys see me like dolled up. Like, what are you cute? Thank you. But okay. So actually that makes me think of like, the only way I can like try to find logic in it is like, when guys don't wear makeup, guys can roll out of bed, not take a shower, and you're like, damn, they're so sexy. I think it's more of like probably a biological thing, or, maybe you're just not being vain. I don't know. I don't need to get into why people find I'm attractive in my work uniform, but to each their own. Very cute. So this guy's like, okay, well, like, can I carry that box for you? And I was like, no, I got it. And he's like, well, let me at least walk you to your car. Like, where's your car? And I was like, oh, this guy's like, nice, very cool. So we get to talking. He's walking me to my car. through, it was kind of a long walk because I had to go all the way around the building because I was in the wrong space because there's multiple open doors. Don't tell them that. They'll get in trouble. So we're getting to talking. He's telling me that he's half Italian and I'm Italian. And I always make this joke with people when they're like, oh, is that Italian? I'm like, yeah, it's my ex-husband's last name. I can't take the credit for it. Ha ha ha. Like, that's the joke that I do. And he's like, yeah, I'm half Italian. I went to Italy on my honeymoon. And I was like, well, at least that was us, making like divorcee jokes or whatever. And I was like, oh, welcome to the club, blah, blah, blah. And so he's like, so are you single? And I was like, yeah, I'm single. He's like, well, maybe I can like get your number because it's always good to have connections with the drivers. It's helpful to have like delivery people we can contact. And I later messaged him saying like, yeah, like I'm super down to do deliveries on the side. Like if so, I'm your gal. I told him I'm an independent contractor and I'm thinking, man, if you could cut out the middleman and not pay these giant, big corporations for like a 50% fee. I'm like, this $100 could have been, I don't know what, like $300, $500. So that's kind of like where my brain socket was going. So I said like, yeah, here's my number. And, in this particular context, like I knew what he meant by that. And so we were saying goodbye and, I knew that he was kind of like flirting. And I am single and I try to put myself out there in ways that are genuine to me. So, I put out my hand and I shook his hand and I said, it was nice to meet you. And, you're a very handsome man. And he said, thank you. Like, you're a very attractive woman. And he's like, oh, I hope my handshake wasn't too hard. And I looked at his hands and I was like, oh my God, those hands. I can't remember the last time I had looked at a man with hands. It's like, sure, not everybody. A lot of people have hands, but these hands were hands that these types of hands I had not seen in a long time. And so I was like, oh no. I said, you can't hurt me. That didn't hurt. It didn't hurt at all, actually. I was like, man, there's strength behind it. We're not even going to get into his hands, but I was thinking about his hands for like the next 30 minutes of my car ride, right? Anyways, shook hands. He has my number. And he said, next time you're in the area, I'd love to take you to some local Italian spots if you like, some, good places we can go eat. And I'm thinking, oh man, this guy just asked me out on a date. Like, this guy is like in charge of this whole freaking warehouse and Silver Fox man who's like manager of all these like, delivery drivers that are all like smoking in the back. And he's like the man that's like, anyways, I was in my head. But I kept thinking like, unfortunately, it was like a two-part thing. I was thinking on one hand, I was like, yes, finally, like a smart man, like a guy that's with it. And I was like, finally, someone that's more my speed. And I'm not just like trying to like, settle in the swimming pond for just what's like around me or giving me the time of day, which is like gross. I can never do that again. Oh, what was I thinking? And it was so refreshing to just have this like simple conversation. Obviously, this guy lives a million miles away, whatever. But like, if I ever go down there again, I'm like, yeah, sure. Like I would hit him up. Well, it's debatable now. But anyways, so that happened. Then I go on my merry way and do my other orders. And, he texted me and he said, hey, Evelyn, bleep, 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 my last name. What did he say? Let me just quote him. I like how I have to like quote these things now because I want you guys all to know that it's very... Anyways, he said, my name here. Insert my name here. Nice meeting you! Exclamation point with this little smiley face like me. And then I said, lovely to meet you. That was a nice surprise. I'm always down for deliveries on the side. So I'm your gal if anything comes up. Smiley face and dinner sounds nice. Okay, seems harmless, right? So I go through the rest of my day or evening and I woke up this morning fucking tired. I was dying because how dare I decided to take a shower and eat. And by the time I did that, it was like, I don't know, 11:30. And I'm like, oh my God. Felt like I was hungover when I woke up just from doing a long shift. And so I open up my phone and I see a message from him. And his message says, are you ready, you guys? Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's see if it has the same connotation for you. So that was the last things we said. He hearted some of my messages. And then he sent me a message late last night. I saw it this morning. And all he said, it wasn't like, he wasn't trying to start up a conversation. He wasn't like talking about things or whatever, like to me, like normal things that you would do. He said, are you on any social media outlets? And I looked at that and I had to tone myself down, but for a brief moment, I was raging in my head. And I thought to myself, this nice modern gentleman, middle-aged man, working 2 jobs, very clean cut, presentable, respectful, first possible date I could have in a while. Instead of having a conversation with me and seeing where that goes, he has to ask me if I'm on any social media outlets. And I had my opinions, but I think I wanted to feel validated. So I asked Google, which is so stupid. Everyone does this. It's so stupid. Why the fuck do we do this? So I'm like on social media and I was like, this guy fucking asked for my fucking social media. And Google's like, yeah, he's trying to vet you. And I'm thinking, how dare you? How dare you? Why are you trying to vet me? You don't want to get to know me first. You don't want to see how things could go naturally and organically. You want to go on my social media page, see what you want to see if it fits into this mold and box of what you want. You want to verify I'm who I say I am. You want to verify, have cute pictures and what I look like with makeup. You want to verify I'm not crazy. You want to verify what's going on. I felt disgusted. Absolutely disgusted. I'm like, this guy has my phone number. This guy can communicate with me. And he now wants my social media to have an online presence there. I do think it's funny that Google also suggested, is it still on there? I like how it mentioned ghost hunting. I didn't know what that was. And then I looked it up and it was some anime thing. Anyways, often suggests a desire to vet you or keep options open while showing low effort. That part really got to me. I was like, yeah, man. So this guy, and Google doesn't know everything, but and I already had these opinions, but it was more just like, oh my God, right out there in my face saying yeah, this guy wants to move from communication, follow me on social media and do the whole likes things, do the whole view things. Oh my God. And then what? I post a picture of me doing something fun or successful and I'm cute. And then he's like, hey, we should get to dinner sometime. No, you guys. Fucking no. I was mortified. I was absolutely mortified. So I'm reading this as I'm getting ready for work. And I was like, honestly, my first thought was like, thank God I saw your flaw in the first 5 seconds. I don't need to know anything more. You bursted my bubble. I'm so glad you did it early. You showed me your true colors. Not interested. That was basically where my headspace went. And some of you could be like, well, that's a simple comment. No, I think when you're 34 years old and you've been around the block for a while, these things are no. I can't say it anymore. No. No. as my friend called it, fantasy brain. I wouldn't even call it a fantasy because I don't like that terminology when describing something like this. Daydreaming is also the wrong word. I don't know what to call it, but when I was on my way home, I was thinking, oh yeah, what if I went on a date with this guy, in San Diego? And then, my ex, who I have loved forever and ever, we bumped into each other and he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? I'm like, I'm on a date with a guy in San Diego. And he's like, why? Anyways, that was what was in my head at the time. But, it doesn't matter because I'm not going to say I'm over it because I've learned that unless you got a blood infusion or you took the bones out of you and got a bone infusion. That's not a thing, but whatever. My point is, I've learned the goal is not to get rid of your feelings for the person. It's learning to adjust without them. So, whatever. I might occasionally talk about my ex. It's not a big deal anymore. Kind of. It's not a big deal. The point is I'm trying to move on and these are my efforts. And this was not a self-sabotaging thing because I was like, no, this guy asked for my social media. He doesn't even want to have a conversation with me in text. Who the fuck are you? Oh, God, I'm so sickened by that. I can't. So anyways, that's the story with him. This is kind of a segue, but this is more about online presence. I was trying to figure out, Evelyn, why are you so mad at this? And it took me a minute and I was like, oh, well, let me think about this situation that happened with this friend that I had. And so what happened was I used to work for Uber a couple years ago and I met this guy on an Uber ride. He was a charming, nice, middle-aged man, legally blind, literally can't see for shit. And you can see his eyes are all glazed over. I was taking him to a doctor's appointment. Turns out this guy goes 2-3 times every single week for several years of his life, the last 15 years, trying to make it so that he's not completely blind. I mean, he is definitely blind, but I think there are some minor things he can see. I never really understood it. He can kind of be on a computer, but also not. And I guess his eyes were deteriorating much quicker. Fascinating story about this guy. When he was in, I think he said law school or something back in the day. It's funny, he didn't take the bar exam, so he must have been a paralegal or something. But he worked in a law firm. Oh, it's probably that Why They Made Suits, probably based off of that guy. Anyways, so he was legally blind when he was a guy in his 20s or 30s, became completely legally blind, literally could not see at all, changed his life. And then through modern technology, wild, he was able to get his sight back, but it's basically been on a decline ever since. I can't even imagine going through something like that. Anyways, that's him a little bit in a nutshell. I became friends with this guy. He actually was a manager of this big company. And he's we could use people like you. And I didn't really want the job, but I really wanted a better job than Uber, obviously. And so I said actually because he said he reviewed resumes, but that they had to be done in a certain way so that not a human would read it, but that AI would pick up on it. And he said, no, I can help you do your resume so that AI will hear what they want to hear. And then that will at least get you an interview. I'm jack off emoji. I can't, whatever, fine. But thank you. That's so generous that you would want to do that. So we connected and he did what he said he was going to do. He updated my resume, and I did think it was funny that he spelt my name completely wrong. And he sent it to me as a PDF. And I was like, bro, I can't make changes. You didn't even... whatever. I've had people be like, yeah, I'll help you with a resume. And then they butcher it more than what I would do. I need to just have confidence in my ability to do things like that. That's always kind of the point. Anyways, the point of the story is this guy and I became really good friends. And over 6 to 8 months, Oh my God. He took me to see my favorite band that happened to be playing on my birthday. He paid for parking. He paid like $150 per our tickets, like bottomless drinks, because he happened to have been an alcoholic and very wealthy. So like money for him was like not a problem. And I was like, wow, I've never like gone out with somebody where money wasn't a problem before. This is like pretty cool. We went to a bar one time and saw like a really cool like rockabilly band. He was like big in the punk scene, like a genuine like punk from like the 70s. We went to this, oh my God, we went to this bar and I had never gone, like I said, like money was an option for him. And I had never gone to a bar before where someone's like, yeah, keep the drinks coming, however much she wants. And I was like having so much fun, just like drinking. It was wild. Really enjoyed the music, good times. I think 1 or 2 times we got like dinner and drinks and then lunch and then went to his house a couple times to like hang out and kick it. But the point was for me, I had constantly made references to him saying, I'm so glad we're friends. Like what I needed in my life then was just like a friend, someone like good and solid in my life. But absolutely, unfortunately for him, did not see anything romantic with him whatsoever. And I think this was when I started learning the concept that when you're older, if you don't already have an established friendship with this guy in the past, being like randomly friends with guys, like it just doesn't work. Maybe it works for some people, but like, no, when you get older, in my opinion, if there comes to be a time where it's like, why are you friends with guys? It's like you're either telling them like it's never going to happen and you're cool just being friends. But for both parties to be on the same page about that is really tough. And the thing was, I was like, wow, I found that like exception to the rule. Like he's cool being friends. Like I'm friends. Like this is great. I just have like a solid person in my life who he wasn't like my mentor, but like, you know, he was a professional and gave me a lot of advice. And it was, you know, I saw him as somebody like who knew a lot and I wanted to like learn and grow from that. Well, I can now see how this like affected some of his relationships in his past, but one of his little quirks and personality is he will not tell you what he's thinking whatsoever. And I guess in essence, that makes him a liar because he was holding back his feelings for me the entire time. And he was like, yeah, like, so happy we're friends. Like, it's great. You don't have to worry about that with me. Like, I'm your guy friend. Like, you know, you're welcome. It is, you know, cool that we can be in each other's lives. Like, you don't have to worry about that with me. Because I told him it was a problem in the past. It was like hard to have guy friends where one party doesn't like the other like that. And so I couldn't believe it. It's almost like I kept bringing it up to him because maybe my unconscious was like, Evelyn, like, you know the truth here. Like, it doesn't matter what he's telling you, unfortunately. It doesn't matter. But like, look at his actions. Like, look at everything else. Like, look at your intuition. So this guy never truly told me how he felt until it completely bottled up outside of his skin. And one day, you know, maybe like 8 months, 6 months into our friendship, and he got plastered drunk, maybe like 2, 3, no, what am I saying? Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe like 10 o'clock at night, something like that. And we both had to go to work early the next day. And I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like getting plastered off his asshole, like when he has to go to work. I guess that was just literally a normal Tuesday for him. Whatever, to each their own. Like, I don't give a shit. Everybody's got shit they're going through. You know what I mean? I can totally understand it. I do think our alcohol is a hard vice though, because like it literally is poison. But you can't not say that about like vapes or cannabis or drugs. Like they really all have their place that's really bad. Whatever. That's not the point of the story. I'm just thinking like, God, that much alcohol in your system all the time has got to just be like killing your innards. So it's really, Sucks. Anyways, he starts messaging me in the middle of the night as I'm getting ready for bed. And he starts acting like really weird. Not just because he's like drunk, but he's asking me weird questions like, "Oh, did you happen to live on this street?" And I was like, "Oh, how funny. Like, funny that you know that." Like, "Yeah, I did actually." And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, were you like here at this time, like at this school?" And I was like, at this point, I'm like, this is very odd to be asking me this. Like, why is he? And my thought was like, all right, is he doing like a background check on me or something? Like, this is really weird. And I messaged him and I was like, bro, like, what's going on over there? I call him. He dodges my call and immediately texts me. He's like, "I need to know. I'm seeing some things about you on the internet." And I was like, "What the fuck do you mean you're seeing things about me on the internet? Like, what are you seeing?" And this was about maybe a year and a half after episode 8. So you could just go to episode 8 if you want to know what I'm talking about. It was so important for me at the time to have friends and stable and healthy, good influences in my life because I had come from a very, very traumatic, very, very dark time in my life. Very dark. Like Middle Ages, plague type of dark time in my life. And so this guy happened to be friends with, and I'm not going to call it out because I don't want to die from gang members. This guy was very close and friendly with a specific city in Southern California who had a very, very famous gang. And this particular gang, I mean, I think all gangs kind of like kill each other, but like this gang, man, they're pretty freaking ruthless and they have a long history in this city of, killing people, not always just other gang members, like doing a lot of shadiness. And just to give you some background, I guess he did some legal work to help this particular gang get a cannabis dispensary legal. And so they became friends with my friend to say thank you for helping them set up this shop. And then I do think it's funny that my friend was like, "Oh, yeah." We kind of bonded over the fact that we both knew how law enforcement was and how real life was. And, we were both kind of punks. So he was like, "Yeah, this gang," he called them by name, was like, why is I'm like using not descriptive words to describe this gang? He's like, "Yeah, every week they'd get a ton of cash and a ton of cannabis and they would give it to the cops that were in that region. And the cops would keep them safe, deter the riffraff. If they got in trouble with the law or were going to get raided or the DEA had to get involved, whatever, all the things that were happening, they would just get pounds of cannabis, a ton of weed, and the cops after hours would, do their little thing to kind of protect them and keep them afloat in this legal space of cannabis." It's just fucking funny. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of backstory. Like this guy, when he was a kid, beat the living shit out of his dad because I guess his dad, I don't remember the situation. It was something weird, like his dad called his mom a bitch or something. And I think he was trying to protect I don't remember if his dad beat his mom or his dad was more verbally abusive. Let's just call it both. But, when he was like 18, 17, beat the shit out of his dad. And I guess like for the rest of his life, it was so much beat him that he had like severe, call it irony. I think he like punctured his eye or something. And then like his dad forever like had this, no, that was another incident. He beat the shit out of his dad and had like a domestic violence charge with the cops when he was younger. He also got into a fight one time with a guy that said something and he smashed a bottle and basically like jammed it in his eye. And I was like, well, that's really ironic that all these years later, I was like, man, it's not karma. What's that word? Comeuppance? Talk about irony that you are now legally blind and you left this guy so scarred and blind for the rest of his life that now that's happening to you. It's like, wow, and you don't hear about that every day when that's like on the nose what happened. But anyways, I think the point I'm trying to make is this guy had connections. This guy came from a rough background. This guy did some pretty heavy shit. Of course, he normalized it and justified bad behavior because that's like what they do. But this guy was no sweet cake himself. And he got older, so I knew him when he was older and, whatever. But he was still doing what he was doing with, like, the gang members. And I think, in his perspective, he's like, okay, yeah, like, I'm not doing anything illegal, but I am, like, hanging out with these gang members. And I'm not part of the gang. I'm just, like, affiliated. Okay, bro, whatever you got to tell yourself. The point is, he's mortified. And he's like, Evelyn, I'm seeing something online. And I call him. I was like, what are you seeing? What are you seeing online? I was so scared. I was actually scared. The feelings that I felt was scared, traumatized, concerned, worried. I was like, what are you seeing online about me? I'm frugal. I'll go the free route all day long to like find somebody online, but like I'm never going to pay money to do a check on them. I'm especially not going to go on a rabbit hole and see if I find any like misdemeanors or criminal charges. Like that's just not who I am. It's so fucking invasive too. Like I'd rather get to know somebody. God, like, I can't believe it's like this is a thing people do. Some people do. Rawr. Okay, I'll get to my point. I'm like calling him. I'm like, what are you looking at? And he's like, and not saying anything. And I told him, I said, first off, why are you not having a conversation with me about this? I said, I've been very honest with you about what has happened in my past. I said, I've been very honest. And I told you since day one, I said, we're like 8 months into our friendship. We know each other pretty well by now. Why do you feel the need to be doing this? That was very hurtful. And I felt very betrayed. I felt very violated. I said, second off, you being you, me being me, us knowing how the real world works. I said, why the fuck would you be believing anything you're reading on the internet? I said, I don't even know what you're reading, but my mind went to the absolute worst place because I'm thinking in my head, okay, whatever he read, like I know myself what happened. I've never gone to jail. I've never had any sort of crime or felony or misdemeanor or any sort of record, right? So I'm like, what is this guy looking at? What is he seeing that is traumatizing him? He wouldn't tell me. And that scared me more because my head at like 10 o'clock at night and for several months later really went to the darkest place. And I think the fact that he didn't tell me was like, he did not see it from my perspective. And I actually got scared because, I was living in a place that was very dangerous at the time. And I felt like it was this feeling. It's like I was brought back into the trauma. I had this pit of darkness in my soul. And it was a scary, sad, lonely, dark, cold place to be. And I told him, I said, like, you with your record have the audacity to be judging me for something that you don't even know is true or not. And you don't want to have a conversation with me about it. And his response was, Evelyn, I'm really scared of you right now. I'm paraphrasing because it's been a while. Evelyn, I'm really scared of you right now. I think we need to spend some time apart. I'm sorry, I wish you well. Something like that. And it's the last thing he ever said to me. So that would have been like, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. And I couldn't believe it. And at 10 o'clock at night, I'm shivering in my bed. I felt scared, thinking, what did he see? What did he see? And was it even true? Probably not. And with a lot of people that can verify this, I can only talk about my own personal life. Documents, legal documents are redacted all the time. And when you get back my police reports, I would say 85% of the page was redacted, which I thought was hilariously sad. And the funny thing to me about court documents or police reports or any sort of legal document, it's like, yes, Your Honor, this is a legal document, but it doesn't mean that the contents of the page is truthful. And that's the part that's funny to me. You think that on this legal document, that's going to go to insurance claims, that's going to go to court, that's going to go to other whatevers. You think on this document, it's going to say, yeah, I probably should have taken her home, but instead I wanted an insurance bonus. And so we didn't take her. So we had to say that she was going to kill herself because that was the justifiable reason to put her where she did. Like, what the fuck? One day I'll tell you about the first time when my ex-husband was so mad when he found out that I was having an affair that he's like, how do I kill her by her without harming her myself? How can I get life or something to kill her? He was mad. By the way, he was not mad that I had an affair. He was mad that people found out and it made him look bad. That's the sad part about it. He didn't actually love or care me. He just didn't want me to be sane and off my meds again that I didn't need. So anyways, that's my opinion. Anyways, the reason why I brought that up is I'll tell you a story of another time where cops barged into my house when I was drinking coffee and feeding my cat one morning. They tackled me to the floor inside of my house. 8 cops roamed around my house, tackled me, threw me into a detainment center for 1 week against my will, solely based off of a text message that my ex-husband showed the cops and said, yeah, I'm sure she wants to kill herself. Look, she's on medication and she's depressed. Isn't that good enough? And it was. So they came into my house, tackled me to the ground, took me away from my cat. Oh God, I'm so mad. I'll tell that story another day later. But my point is, I don't think you can legally fucking do that. There was no conversation with me that said hey, can we come in? Can we have a talk? No, it was like, oh, your ex-husband who lives 40 miles away, who isn't even here and can verify this information, said you wanted to kill yourself. And based off of a text message, we're going to come into your house, tackle you to the ground and throw you away and lock the fucking key. That really fucking sucked for me. That's why I do not like my ex-husband. I genuinely believe my ex-husband did want me dead. And he was like, well, if I can get her to die, but it doesn't have to be by my own hand, great. And I know that he was a little bit scared when I got better and got off the medication I shouldn't have been on and got off of cannabis. And he's like, oh, fuck, she's not dead. I hope she doesn't have a fucking memory of all this. Yeah, I do. Ex-husband, love you too, babe. Anyways, he moved on 3, 6, 5 months after our separation, and he's been with this girl ever since. And I'm like, good for you. I don't have to worry about you. You're fine. But when she puts out a documentary, she ends up in the same place his last 3 girlfriends and fiancés and wives ended up. We all had the same story of how we ended up. He has a track record of putting people in hospitals or making them try to kill themselves. It's actually a thing. Literally 3 of us have the exact same story. It's interesting. Wonder what happened there. Anyways, this was not meant to be a story about him. Why did I bring this up? My point was, people can take things how they're going to take it. My point is, I have police reports that say Evelyn wanted to kill herself. She blah, blah, blah. None of this was actually true. You can say whatever the fuck you want to say. That doesn't make it true. Yes, it's on a legal, document. I was thinking the other day how in court they still say, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth to help you God? I want to be a smart mouth and be like, I'm sorry, is that your God or my God? And also, why is this even in here? Maybe as like a placeholder or like it's a formality or protocol, I think is the word I was trying to say. But like, why do you think a cop on a witness stand or a gang member or a victim, why would they want to tell the truth? I guess it's the fear of, well, if you don't tell the truth, we could do like a background, but it doesn't even matter because people like doctor up documents all the time. This is a thing. It's really fucking sad. Welcome to the government and real life. I'm not going to get into that. My point is, I was so mad. I was so mad because I was very honest with this guy about everything that happened from my point of view. And I'm thinking, I didn't beat the living shit out of my dad. I didn't beat the living shit out of this guy that looked at my girlfriend wrong. Like, I'm not friends with literal gang members that literally kill people and literally do shady transactions with law enforcement. Why are you coming at me like this? And I think it wasn't until I thought about it this morning. It's because this guy he needed any reason. It didn't have to be rational. It didn't have to be true. He just needed to find something and convince himself of a way to stop loving me. And he had to go through extreme lengths, and he had to do it in the form of like, with a bottle in his hand. And it's really unfortunate, but we're not friends anymore. And, I don't think it works that way though. Like, I'm sure he probably still cares for me, but whatever, he had to find a way to convince himself, like, no, she's like the devil. She's evil. She has a past. And I'm just like, man, what a hypocrite. What's a better word than hypocrite? Like, it's just a spineless, feeble little shit. And it's really funny to me when you look at like vanity. I was never attracted to him, and I'll admit he did need like a caretaker. Although his attitude was like, if you were with me, you wouldn't have to take care of me because I'm so wealthy. Like, you could just be my partner and I could hire someone to do all of these things that, for me. But I think my attitude was kind of like, there were things about him that I couldn't see past, and it was more of like his personality. And I didn't like his attitude about certain things. I also did not think he was truthful about some things. And I did think it was funny. I'm like, okay, you could pay all these people to do these things so that you can like move to your nice mansion somewhere with your girl and call it a day while someone else like, wipes your butt and like takes you to your doctor's appointment. I was like, yeah, then why are you using like Uber to take whatever? That's not the point. There were things that I didn't like about this guy, and it came to a head. And that was just trying to tell you about being careful about what you see online, believing everything that you see and hear online. Social media. We're going to have influencers that get paid by TikTok and Instagram that are not clinical psychiatrists, not fitness professionals, not licensed therapists, tell you you have ADD, you are neurodivergent, you are a narcissist, your ex-boyfriend is a narcissist. And people just, they don't vet, they don't look at these people's backgrounds and education. Some do. But the way social media works, it's like, I'm going to put content in your face. You have 5 to 10 seconds to pay attention to it before you look at something else. So it's so like brainwashy and evil and manipulative, the way they do it, the tactic. But I don't think the average person, when they're scrolling, is looking at the content and in 5 to 10 seconds processing, oh, this is not right or wrong. Like, this is BS. I think they're looking at something, they're hearing what the influencer has to say, they're hearing what the celebrity has to say, and they're going with it. And I think it's sad. You can even say this about politics or the 1%. You don't personally know their life. You do not personally know their day-to-day and the decisions and discussions that they have. So why are you inserting you into their life saying you know what's up? Why are you looking at something and saying, this is what's happening in the world, this is what's happening in America, this is what's happening in Iran, this is what's happening in Ukraine? What the fuck do you actually know? Do you work in the government? Are you private security? Are you a politician? Are you friends, close friends with the president of the United States? No? So why the fuck do you think you know actually anything? Oh, well, because I saw it online. Why do you think they're telling you the truth? What in their best interest? Oh, yeah, we're super great people. We're just going to keep you informed of everything that's going on in the world. What? I think it's frustrating because I think a lot of the younger generation understands this concept. I think a lot of the older generation, they probably just don't want to hear it because they don't believe that could be true because they thought, they grew up in like Reagan's time and all of that and la la la. But I'm like, you guys, it's not any different from the last like 30 years. The difference is we know more and we have different outlets. But what's funny is we still don't know everything. And we're still just as dumb as the medieval times. We just have different ways of showing it, I think that was a lot to like throw at you. But I really can't stand social media and the internet. And it's hard because we are forced, whether we want it or not, for it to be in our lives. And it gets really dark and dystopian sometimes. And I try not to think about it like in a way where I can spiral because then it's really dark and really scary. And my therapist is like, I got people talking about this stuff all the time. They're so scared and they're so worried. And what else can I say other than I understand? And we're all kind of going through that. And it's valid. Something my therapist had to tell me about kind of where the world's going is she's like, first off, it's the future. Nobody really knows. Second off, yes, it looks like it's going in this direction. But she said that's not the point. If you focus on it, that's what you're going to see. That's what you're going to be a part of. And then your life is a giant, what if this happens? What if that happens? And whether or not that actually happens, you are living in a projected fear that hasn't even existed in real time. She said, I understand. And it doesn't mean be delusional. It doesn't mean be an ostrich and put your head in the sand. But you do, in essence, have to live your life. You have to find the joys. You have to appreciate the little things. You cannot focus on the news and the politics and the drama and the gossip and all these things. I had a friend, oh, you don't like watching the news? Well, just go on X. She's like, if you ever really want to know what's actually going on and like really tell you the truth, go on X. And I value her opinion so much. She's very successful. She's a total fucking girl boss. She's a babe. She's like literally very successful and I love her. And she has such a big part of my heart. She's a big influence and inspiration in my life. But there have been a couple of times like when she said that, I'm like, man, girl, you're even part of the mix. Go on X and that's how you can get real live vetted information. I just thought that was funny. So yeah, I think, I do have issues with social media and I don't think one is better than the other. I think They are all part of a playing field. They're all either buddies with each other or they're competitors. They all have this, similar motives and tactics. Now, again, people, this is my opinion. You can take it or leave it. And I don't want to be a hypocrite. It's just like I said. Do I know? Did I personally know Steve Jobs? Do I personally know Warren Buffett? Do I personally know Jeff Bezos? Do I personally know Elon Musk? Do I personally know, I don't know, I want to call him Jesse Eisenberg. What the fuck is that guy's name? Obviously, he's not important in my life. I don't give a shit about him, unfortunately. The fucking CEO of Facebook and Instagram. Oh my God, I can't believe his name is escaping me right now. Well, just as much as I don't give a flying fuck about him, he doesn't me. The point is, we're not friends. We're not friends. We don't know each other's personal lives. So these are just comments and opinions and based off of our life. So I can't really say I know everything. What I do feel in my heart, though, about these types of people, I think if you are very wealthy, you don't owe anybody money. You don't owe your server or your Uber driver or your private driver a $50,000 bonus. You don't need to be going around giving your server $20,000 for your, kids, whatever fund. I think it's really selfish of us little people, quote, little people, to say, oh, well, they're rich, they can handle it. However, I do think if you are going to be in a position of power, and if you are going to be so wealthy and you are an influence on that level, I do think as a human being, you have a personal responsibility to do better, to try harder. And so let's just say as the president of the United States, as an example, for all the MAGA people, I got a really, 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 I have a very, very close friend of mine who's very, very, very MAGA and, whatever. It's like, it doesn't matter what you say. He is very pro-Trump, and to each their own, it's fine. But I think the point is, like, for example, if you're the president of the United States, and this is why I'm not on either side. This is not like a this or that kind of, this is not a political stance. My point is, if someone of power and wealth that has more knowledge than most of us sees that there are people that are defamating his character, people that are lying about things that are happening, people that are saying this and that. I picture back in the olden days where there used to be like public announcements and everyone would get these emergency notices on their TV, and every single person on the planet in their little homes with their families or their radios, whatever, TV, radio, whatever. This is your public service announcement. And it wasn't just the 50s and 60s, but I'm picturing that. You know what I'm talking about. Every person on their phones, on their devices, whatever, got a notice. They didn't have phones back then. You get my point. They had a notice that said like, hey, stop for a minute. This is what's happening. This is your president talking to you. Everyone is on the same page. And I think if you're the president of the United States, it doesn't matter. You could be Congress saying this. You could be anybody saying this. Why are you not coming up on every single person's social media platform? Why aren't you on the news and TV and radio and every single outlet saying, hey guys, this got out of hand. I'm not saying I want the Handmaid's Tale to happen. I'm not saying I don't like immigrants. I'm not saying this and that. Before social media says whatever, here is an announcement. We're all on the same page. And I'm not even calling out the president. I'm saying this for any person of wealth and power, period. Let's look at the 1% alone. The 1% alone, which is what, thousands and thousands or hundreds and hundreds of people. Those people, let's just talk about those people. I think it is your personal responsibility and accountability to make public statements that everybody is seeing, everybody forced to see it. So that we're not doctoring it up or, editing footage or having AI take over that video. And now that video has been sent to 300,000 people, touched over 300,000 hands. And now it's a game of telephone and the message isn't even correct anymore. And that's the information we're blasting out. Misinformation, all that kind of stuff. So it's a bummer because even though I believe it is their personal responsibility to have accountability, and if you're going to be in that position of power, you need to do the right thing. But also, isn't that very sweet, Evelyn, that you want that? I think in a dream world, that would happen. And it's funny, you can get into, well, that's not someone's free will if you have to come on their television and we're going to sue the government. I'm just thinking of all the bullshit things that people could say or do these days. I think the world is so chaotic. It's like anything goes at this point. It's the Wild West. But, it would be nice if, let's say somebody was being very genuine and you had a public announcement that went over all across the world and they're like, hey, I want to address the things that are being said out there. Let me clarify. Let me let you know what's going on. Let me give you my opinion. And if you guys have questions, let's open the floor to the reporters or whatever. I wonder how that worked back in the day, if that actually helped. It's like that moment when you hear previous generations say that they all got on their TVs and radios and huddled around with their friends and families, and everybody collectively saw, the first spaceship go up into space. And that was like a moment, a collected moment. Where are those collected moments? So let me wrap this up. I don't know what I'm going to say to that guy. I'm not going to say anything to him right now because I'm obviously too emotionally passionate about this. But when I calm down, I will try not to be snarky. But also, there comes to be a point where you're like, I want to be myself and as authentic as possible. And if you don't like me for me, it's never going to work. And I can't put on a facade for you. So I might send him an audio message just because text messages can get a little weird. I'll try to cap it at 5 minutes. So I'm going to be like, hey, you know what? Like, a part of me is thinking like, oh, let's just talk for a while. Let's not care about social media. But I've kind of already made my decision about this guy. Like, he kind of like showed me his true colors right away. But, as I do, I'll give the guy the benefit of the doubt. And I'll be like, you know what? Like, I can't even say what I'm going to say because I'm too heated. It's like, bro, if you got to get my social media account to get to know me, I'm just disgusted. But in conclusion, people are going to see what they want to see. People are going to see what they want to see. And I think it's sad because you can't convince somebody to see something they don't see. And unless they're doing the individual work and are emotionally mature, emotionally intelligent, working on themselves, been around the block a few times, mature despite what your age is, it's tough, I don't need to date this guy. It'd be nice to have dinner if I'm in the area. It's not what it's even about anymore. It's more of the principle of the thing. I was like, I'm so glad you said that to me early because I'm just disgusted with who you are. And, you could probably think, wow, that was such a simple comment and you blew it out of proportion. Well, in my life, that's kind of a big deal. It was never going to work. But I hope you got something from this. I think unless you see both sides and are personally invested in somebody's life, how do you really know what's up about anything? There are two sides of the story, and there are two sides of the same coin. People can have opinions about you. The story I told you about getting taken out of my home and tackled to the floor. I'm sure my ex-husband has a really great explanation for why he did what he did. Still don't think it was right, but, I understand, when some people go through divorces, it's that's kind of the consequence. Some people show colors and claws come out, and you hear these stories where these like couples get divorced and they have all the money in the world and they're fighting over I heard this one story. This guy's like, take everything in the world from me, all my money and riches, but don't take my dog. And she was so mad at him. She's like, I don't want any of that. I just want your dog because I know all you want is that dog. I'm not going to ask you for millions and millions of dollars and all the properties in the world. I want your dog because it's the one thing you can't have and loved the most. I think things like that happen all the time. It's really unfortunate. And I think that's why some people, are afraid to get divorced because, it's sad. It's like if you think your partner is capable of that and you stay with them so that it doesn't happen, what does that say about the foundation of your relationship? It is unfortunate. But anyways, I have to go to work now. I'm going to Lancaster. Very excited I got this long ride. But I'm grateful that I got to have this conversation with you guys and, kind of talk this out with you guys. I'm curious of other stories you've had about social media. If you have any comments or feedback, if situations like this have happened to you too, like it'd be cool if we can talk about it or open up a healthy, respectful discussion about it. You can either take what I say with a grain of salt. You can resonate with some of this. You can laugh at it. You can do whatever you want with it. But the whole point of this is like make your own conclusions, make your own opinions for yourself. And, there's no right or wrong in how you think and feel. And, this is not a message to tell you how to live and how to be, but for you to think as an individual thinker, as a contrarian thinker, outside of the box, outside of the mold, outside of social media and society. I'll wrap with this. There was a girl, I've been starting to make a lot of comments on social media, kind of just giving my opinion about things. And some of these comments surprisingly have been blowing up. And I thought it was kind of sad because I'm like, I changed my profile name from my name to my business. And as soon as my business name popped up, all of a sudden, something I would get 2 or 3 likes became 97 likes in a couple days. And I was like, really? Just because you guys are looking at my business name, not who I am? That's really fucking sad in the world we live in. But the point is, this girl said, hey, you guys, this guy is totally uninterested in me, but I really like him. So should I tell him how I feel and see what he says back? But he totally doesn't like me at all. And all the comments were roasting her like, girl, no, if he's totally uninterested in you, why would you do that to yourself? And I chimed in and I said, knock, knock, excuse me. Do you know for a fact he's uninterested in you? Did he say out loud, I'm uninterested in you? Or are you in your head making a conclusion before you have all the facts and saying that because of fear or insecurity or worry or whatever? I said, you don't know. If you haven't actually had that conversation with him, you don't get to make that decision. If you like him, go for it. You don't know. Live in reality. Put your screen down. Don't ask social media and these strangers that don't know you or him asking us advice. No, no, no. And I really hope that helped her. I mean, I worded it a little bit differently, obviously, but it's sad. This girl has pure intentions and she's like, please help. I like this guy and he doesn't like me. And she just gets shit for it. Honey, respect yourself and da 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 da. And I'm like, you guys are very quick to having opinions without having all the facts. And I think that's a pretty good conclusion to everything I'm trying to say. And I think social media is the dark web, social media and news outlets where they are now. Maybe even newspapers. Although one time someone told me, Evelyn, newspapers were like that the whole time. You think LA Times and New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, you think they were always on the up and up? I was like, oh, that's a good point. You don't know. I just would say do your due diligence, follow your intuition, and maybe make conclusions for yourself before just going to social media, going to complete strangers, and actually, think in your brain a little bit before you just blast something out and cause more chaos. That's part of the problem. So I'm going to leave it at that. I love you guys so much. Thank you for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure. This is a wrap on episode 14, social media. Peace out.
All right, it's your turn. Let's do this. I know how to love, 'cause in my dreams I was taught by you. I know how to love, 'cause in my dreams I was taught by you. Spend a little time with me, and maybe you will see just temporary